Hello. I straightened my hair for you guys today. So where do we begin this tale? We'll pretend that I didn't practice the intro 5 times, and I shall tell you that my car has been without a back seat for about 10 months now. How's that for a grabber at the beginning? So last year I went on a couple solo road trips, made a video about it if you want to check it out. And it was great, and I wanted to do more of it. And I became obsessed with the idea of turning my little Kia Soul into some sort of camper van so I could actually sleep in it comfortably instead of super scrunched up in it, which I definitely was. So I thought I'd show you the setup that I have right now. The only problem that I am now realizing is that with all of this bedding, and it's all too long for the car, I don't have much foot space. And so in January of this year, I looked up the schematics for the make and model of my car, made sure that there weren't any sensors inside the back seat. There weren't. And so I grabbed my wrench and went to work, and I removed the back seat. And of course Rick helped lift out the whole thing because it was really heavy. You're cute. And my plan was that in June, I wanted to go on a big old road trip. I wanted to go up and around to do a full loop around the American Southwest. But of course, when one thinks that they have unlimited time, they drag their feet. And so I didn't really do anything for months.
And then March happened.
And we all know what happened in March. And at that point, suddenly going on a trip like that didn't seem very responsible or very safe. So I tabled the idea and figured I would just wait out this whole thing until it was safe and I would just enjoy the much better gas mileage that I had without a back seat in the meantime. And so I waited, and I waited, and then one day I realized, like, what exactly am I waiting for? Am I waiting for this to be over entirely? Because I don't know when that will be, and I don't know if it will even look the same as it was before all this. And in the meantime, there are things that I can be doing. Maybe not a trip as grand as I had initially planned, but I could go camping. That's outside, it's far from people. I could even bring a friend or a family member, assuming that we kept our distance. And suddenly I realized that I've kind of been living in this little bubble, a very safe bubble and a very good bubble. Everyone should be in bubbles of some sort right now. I've been operating from this very simple rule, and that is outside bad, inside good. And simple rules are good for simple times, but with something that is lasting as long as it is, there needs to be a little bit more wiggle room, a little bit more complex decision making. So with all that, let me just say I'm not advocating for you to go out and pretend this pandemic. Why is no one saying pandemic on YouTube? Is it banned? Is this gonna get like lowered on the algorithm? I don't know. That's why I said it real fast. What the f was I even saying? But I'm not saying that this whole thing is over. Goodness knows it is not. Please continue wearing masks. Please continue social distancing for all of our sakes. But there are things that are possible right now. And I got really tired of waiting for something that I didn't necessarily need to wait for. So I decided to stop waiting and to do something about it. These look like what I need. Do I get this one? Or this one? What is the difference? Dude, I keep seeing people without masks or like with it pulled down right here. And it's all I can do not to say something. Maybe I should say something, but I'm not that person. So no lie, I spent almost 2 hours being indecisive about exactly what kind of wood I needed. But after all of that, I got it out to my car and loaded the smaller pieces in, and I realized that even all that careful decision making can't account for every single variable. Oh, okay. Sure. Well, I measured everything about this build except for the opening of my trunk. So the bigger part, the piece of the lumber that's gonna create the flooring, doesn't fit through my trunk. I can't get it in. So luckily I'm really close to my parents' house, and my dad's coming by with his car to see if it fits in that. He thinks it might. I hope it does. If not, we can bring it back in and have him do a cut that I wanted more time to measure, but would need to happen regardless. So it's really hot out here. Finally, I was ready to get to work. So I had made a pattern of my car's trunk using some old cardboard, and we traced this onto the wood to prep it to cut out for the flooring. My dad let me borrow his jigsaw and stood by to make sure I didn't remove any fingers, which honestly I felt was unnecessary, but in hindsight, it was probably a really good thing because I am both clumsy and very excited by power tools. Exciting. I like this. But it also took much longer than I expected. In fact, what I'd planned on finishing in a day ended up taking me 3 trips to my parents' house to get all of the major cuts done. The plan was to build the bed on top of the reclined passenger seat so that I would have enough room for a full bed, but this took a lot of time and measuring to get exactly right. So then, after each visit to my parents' house to get the cuts done, I'd take everything back to my house and assemble it over the following days. But even with all those trips, I still ended up needing to do some hand sawing. Good morning, guys. Okay, so where did we leave off? A few weeks ago, I was able to finish the entire floor of the back. It's not like all that pretty, but it works. I'll show you in a second, but what I'll be doing today is actually putting together the bed. So I went over to my dad's place and got to cut, he did the cutting, but got the rest of the pieces cut, or most of them. I may need to do some hand sawing today, which should be fun. But yeah, okay, let me show you what I've done so far. So she's a mess right now, but you can see we have a floor. So the idea is this floor does not go quite all the way to the seats. It just kind of drops off where the normal foot space was for these back seats that were right here. But I'm going to be building a bed on top of the passenger seat. So it's going to go from the footwell of the passenger seat down to here. And then I needed a way to be able to access the spare tire. So this whole thing lifts up, and I just have a couple 2x3s which happen to be exactly the right height to keep this whole thing even. So let's get started. Attaching the front legs was straightforward, but attaching the rest of the legs was quite tricky because I needed to drill the screws in from the top of the bed down into each leg. And the best way that I could think of doing this was to temporarily attach each leg with tape so that I could then turn the whole thing right side up and they could kind of balance themselves while I drilled them from the top. But after I'd gotten all the legs taped on and I went to test the fit before screwing them in, it was clear that this wasn't quite working. I ended up taping them so that they were hanging from the bottom so that I could then gently put it on the ground and screw it in that way. This had troubles of its own. It did eventually work, and while I'm sure that there are easier ways to do this, I don't want to hear them. Don't tell me. Don't leave any suggestions in the comments, because you know what? I did this. Thank you very much. Only broke one drill bit this time. Okay, so here's where we are now. We have the front piece that has the 2 front legs hanging off the very front. I know you can't see. And then this is what we just built here, and it fits perfectly. And I was really worried that I was gonna get the placing wrong for this, but it is inset enough, and it works out, and it's pretty dang sturdy. So all that's left to do is I need to add a hinge down the middle of this so that this whole piece lifts up, and I need to find some way to support the front part beyond just the hinge, because that is just way too much stress on that. I don't know if I'll continue today.
A few days later, I got to work cutting the pieces that I needed in order to build that support structure that would lay across the passenger seat.
Okay, so I've cut these pieces for the support, and the idea is that these will go underneath like that, and the idea is that this will lay across the head of the passenger seat. So I just need a way to secure these. I got some of these brackets, and let's see if they work. Well, that's a lot easier than doing it by hand. So now it is done. Or, well, not quite done. It definitely needs a little bit more work, but it's done enough for me to use. And in fact, to celebrate, I went out and took it out for a weekend upstate with my sister, and it was really great. We hiked a ton. My hip is still sore, and we saw some tarantulas like out in nature, which I've never seen before. If you are arachnophobic, skip ahead 5 seconds because I'm going to share it now. It was so cool. I will say my bed was not comfortable. I definitely need more cushioning on there. All I brought was like 2 camping pads that go in the bottom of your tent, but even those are usually on top of dirt, which is more comfortable than just plain old wood. So I need some sort of cushioning in there if I go out again, but the hard part is done. Even as I say that, no, I still need to build a little bit more support. It was a little bit wobbly, but I feel good. I feel proud, not just of the fact that I built this thing with help, but I don't know, it feels really good to break out of one shell a little bit and do something new, something that you've been dreaming about for a while, and to finally make it happen. It's good feels. So with that, I hope y'all are doing well. Apologies that this video took so freaking long to put out. I'm not gonna really be keeping to a normal publishing schedule anymore because I want to bring better videos to you, ones that I really feel excited to make, like this one. So yeah, until next time, get out there and try something new. Take care, guys.